Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Max.
And I'm Zach.
And today we want to talk about the difficulties in starting a car rental company, specifically on Turo. A lot of people ask us how to get started, all the tough things that people don't tell you about, and we're going to start talking about them today. And the first thing I think is buying a car.
Yep. A lot of people just jump in, they see a cool car that people think they would like. This is speaking from experience where our first car we purchased, backfired a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a car that we wanted. We saw it. Well, we saw the like Instagram reel or TikTok, whatever, and there's this guy with a slingshot. Oh, so cool! It'd be so cool to have that car. Let's do it.
Yeah, so a slingshot's a three-wheeled vehicle that has no top and it's very sporty. It was a manual. It's pretty quick. What we didn't realize is we bought a car without air conditioning in Arizona. Didn't do any research. It made good money. It brought in. It had some months where it was bringing $1,500–$1,600 a month.
It did.
But the consistency just wasn't there. And the price we paid for it, compared to other vehicles, the ROI was just, it made money, but just was not what we needed.
Well, and the maintenance and the shop that we had to do the maintenance, it wasn't like Buckeye or something. It was so far away.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Oil changes on it alone, just for the oil itself, was $140. Just for the oil, not the labor, not the fuel filter. Just oil.
And the toughest part about it was reselling it. What did it take us 3 or 4 months to sell?
Yeah, it was such a specialty vehicle that we really struggled to sell that thing. We had it posted on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, everywhere. And, there's not many buyers for those types of vehicles. We were also trying to sell, it was the beginning of summer.
Yeah.
So it chose a bad time to sell. And
we started at like 17, then went to 16, 15, 14. I mean, I think we sold that thing for $11,000 or $12,000. We bought it for almost $21,000, which is crazy. So, first thing you need to know when getting started with Turo is buy the right car. And there's a couple things in that. It's doing the research, making sure the car makes the right return on investment, which for us it's 10%. If we buy a car for $10,000, we typically want to see $1,000 a month on average gross.
And to find those numbers, you can just go on a Turo and look. You can look at people's cars. So say, you're trying to buy a Honda Accord. You go to someone with a Honda Accord, you look at it, what it's priced per day, and then you can also look at their calendar and see how many days out of the month is being rented. And with that, you can do the math on how much money a month you're going to average.
Yeah, that's typically what we do. We see what the price is and then how much it's renting out. There's also a Turo calculator. You can look up the area and the type of car, and it'll tell you roughly what it'll make. The numbers aren't exact, but it gives you a good baseline.
Yeah, I think to do the math yourself and look at someone with a live example is going to be a lot more accurate than just Turo's calculator.
Yeah, and to that, so doing the research, figuring out the car you want to buy, making sure that it's a car that doesn't depreciate very, very quickly like we had. I mean, we lost, it was like $8 or $9 grand, and we only had it for like 8 to 10 months. I mean, it wasn't very long, maybe a year. It was such a short amount of time to lose so much money. If you were to do that back to back to back and you build a business like that, you're going to fail before you know it. I mean, seriously. On your 5th car, you're going to be done for. So making sure it doesn't depreciate too quickly, buying it at the right price, buying it with the understanding of the return, and making sure that it is a good return. I think also part of buying it is trying to stay away from dealerships. We know people, there's a host named Nick, he's in California, and he buys just from dealerships, but he looks across the country. You look at every state, every dealership, and he finds the best deal, so when he does go to resell it, he buys them for such a good price that he can resell them and either sell for what he bought it for, or even make money, which is huge, but that's something that most people aren't doing right now.
Yeah, I'd definitely say Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist are going to be your best friends. There's a lot of opportunity there. Buying cars below market value, give you some room when you go to sell. We've talked about this in previous videos, and I think it's such a important thing, while looking at it from a business standpoint, is your buy.
And that's just it. But the key for all this is a business standpoint. And you had a great point earlier of, people look at cars that they want and then they buy them. And I don't think that's a bad idea as long as you do the numbers. I mean, there's tons of cars that we want to buy, and if they make sense, sure, we'll buy it if it makes the return. But we're not going to go buy a Corvette C7 for $60,000 if it only makes $1,000 a month, because that doesn't make sense for us. Because we could buy a car we could buy 3 cars for $20,000 and make $6,000 a month for that same $60,000. So it's all about buying the right car for the right price with the right return. I mean, that's just it. If you can figure that out, you're money. I think the next thing that people don't really understand getting started is usually when people get started, they have a full-time job or they have another commitment and it takes a lot of their time. And understanding that Turo takes time as well, and it's really hard sometimes to delegate time. I mean, when you have a full-time job and you're running a Turo fleet, it's really hard to manage both sometimes.
It really is, and that's how we both started. You know, we both had, I was working a full-time job, and you know, it just to schedule out, you know, when cars were being delivered, how they were going to get to the airport. It was really difficult at first.
Yeah, it was because we both had full-time jobs, and I think it's part of understanding our system.
Yep.
Like in the beginning, everyone's so new to it, you don't know maybe how to clean the cars as quickly, or maybe you don't have a cleaning membership, or there's so many different factors to the system that if you can lock down and understand how everything works and create your own system for efficiency, that's golden. We did that.
Yeah.
I mean, it took us probably a year and a half. I mean, I feel like right now we have everything down pretty well. I mean, everything works pretty systematically, and we're always improving different things. But
and it's going to be very different for everyone. You know, you got to look at how much time it's going to take you to clean the car. That's not just clean the car, just driving to the, you know, car wash. Some people are 15 minutes away from a car wash. We're lucky, we're 3-4 minute drive, and so it takes us on average 15 to 20 minutes to get a car ready to go from the second we get the reservation.
yeah,
And then driving to the airport, you know, for us we're about 15 minutes away from the big airport, Sky Harbor, but for other people it's going to be a 45-minute drive. So you really got to understand the time that is associated with everything that goes along with the business.
Yeah, that's true. And we have the guy that we interviewed, Nick. He was so interesting because he had all of his cars at the airport.
Yeah.
So he drove to the airport, did all of his like cleaning, whatever, like getting the cars ready, check in, check out. Like he would just drive to the airport every day, do all that, and then leave again, which is crazy. Like he stored everything at the airport. He is like one of a kind out of everybody we've talked to.
Yeah, and you know that the hands-on aspect of that, his business is going to be a lot different. But then there's going to be parts that you can account for, like, for example, customer communication. Like we have times where, you know, we're communicating with the customer for an hour straight, helping them figure out certain aspects. Like, you know, once a week we'll have a conversation about someone not understanding how the Bluetooth works or certain aspects of the vehicle. So we have to go step by step and explain to them how that works. Or a lot of times we'll have airport drop-offs that don't understand how to get to a certain parking lot. So we'll have to describe to them the exact route that they have to take, and so they can figure it out, you know, and that's all time out of your day that you really have to figure out to, you know, really make it efficient.
And we've created systems around that. So for like deliveries, we have instructions on how to get to the East Economy lot, where their car is going to be, like the full instruction list, so there's no miscommunication or there's no misunderstanding. And that's the goal at the end of the day, for efficiency, to create efficiency for us and to create efficiency for the guests.
Yep.
So we definitely have that down. As far as like if somebody has trouble with the Bluetooth or something, for us the system is we find a YouTube video on how to and we send it to them. I mean, everything is just how quickly, instead of calling them, hey, let me walk you through it, it's let me get it to you. Let's figure out the quickest, most efficient way, and that's everything. I mean, the system that you create and how you run your business should be how quickly and efficiently can you get everything done.
Yep.
Yeah.
That has a big impact on your success.
Yeah. I think the next thing is probably parking. Not right away when you have a couple cars, if you have a house or something. We got up to, was it 10 or 11 cars we had at your house until we had to move.
My neighbors hated me.
Yeah.
God bless I didn't have an HOA because I'd be violating a lot of rules. But yeah, it was definitely difficult. They're all parked outside of my house. I was having customers show up at my house at random hours of the day. It was definitely difficult.
It's crazy. And when people started complaining, we had them like lying like down the street.
Yeah, we were parking
the
them and spreading them all out. And yeah, it was definitely, we made it work, you know, because we were trying to be, you know, just trying to grow as fast as possible. But right at we were at 12 cars when we got the office.
We had to get the office.
No.
And there's kind of two major solutions that I see. There's one which is There's parking garages. For us, it's called, what's it called?
Pre-flight.
Pre-flight, where you pay, I think it's $100 or $150 a car per month. You get to park it there. It's right by the airport. They have a shuttle and stuff, which is super nice, super easy. But then there's the cost. And if you think about, okay, $150 per car, okay, I have 10 cars, that's $1,500 a month. Or if I have 20 cars, that's $3,000 a month. And then you look at something like our space, we have 26 spots, we probably fit 30 cars. If we were to have 30 cars in pre-flight, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a lot of money. So I think stuff like that is okay maybe initially, but once you get to a certain size, you have to weigh the cost versus the benefit. So if like for us, I mean, to have 20 cars to go to pre-flight, I mean, that's $3,000 a month, and we're paying about $2,000 a month for an office and a parking lot. So we kind of have two things, and we have the office, which is huge. So I think parking once you grow to a certain size is very important, and I think having those stuff like pre-flight where there's parking available for you is a good idea until you get to a certain size where just the cost of it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next thing I could think of is managing your maintenance. We hear about a lot of hosts that just don't keep up with their maintenance. They have cars that are going to guests. The guest pulls out of the parking lot or whatever, and the freaking, what did that lady tell us, that the engine was like smoking.
Oh yeah,
That's
a
crazy.
guest was renting from another host, and they pull out, and the car was pretty much falling apart.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen some hosts in the areas that just struggle with that aspect, maintenance. But staying on top of it can be, you know, it sounds super simple, but it can be a lot more tedious than you would think.
Yeah.
You know, with one car, it's pretty simple, you know, but as you start to grow, you got to understand your, you know, oil changes, your filters, everything has to be to the dot. Like tires, we're at the tire shop once every 2 weeks at least.
But it's also getting stuff done immediately. So
Yep.
if something happens, you get it done immediately. What's nice for us is, I mean, if something happens to a car and we need to block it out because we need to get something fixed, we have the luxury typically to switch them into something else,
Yeah.
which is huge. And I guess starting out, we didn't really have that. Sometimes, maybe when we had 3 or 4 or 5 cars, we could start to do that a little bit. But it's tough when you get into months like March where everything's booked. So if you have a car that needs to get blocked out for like 3 or 4 days, you probably have to cancel a reservation. So, I mean, making sure that you get stuff done before it turns into an even bigger problem, I think is huge.
Yep.
Yeah, very, very important.
Yeah, and there's ways to help with that. Like, for example, we use Bouncy, and Bouncy tracks all of the, you know, it has a whole health report on your vehicle, it'll tell you when you need to schedule oil changes.
Because it tracks the miles.
Yeah, it tracks miles. You can, I think there's a system in there that you can track tire wear based off of, you know, what tires you put on it, how many miles are expected to use, and it'll keep track of all this information for you. You know, right now we use that as well as just spreadsheets, just keeping track of everything. But you know, there's minor things that you need to look into to, you know, really keep that stuff in line.
Yeah, that's big. And I think that's probably one of the last points is tracking your vehicle.
Yeah.
Not maintenance or whatever. I mean, that's, of course, but tracking the actual location of the vehicle, because there's times where, and it's not very often, you don't get it for stuff that happens every week. You get it for stuff that happens, you know, once in a while, which is either somebody doesn't want to return the car, or I guess for us, it's if somebody parks at the East Economy lot or wherever they park it, and they don't text us and show us where it is, we can look on Bouncy, zoom in, and it'll show us like almost what spot it's in. I mean, it's
unbelievable.
spot on. Typically, I'll do that before I even look at their images.
Yeah, it's way quicker. Just those Bouncies, and for, you know, if you have under 10 cars, I think it's $9 a month. That pays off so quickly, and the amount of time that it'll save you, as well as just reassurance knowing that, you know, if your car does get stolen, and it's gonna, you know, there's a big potential for it to happen. You have the backup to figure out where the car is located. And, you know, Bouncy is just one software. You know, they have a bunch of different options, you know, ones that'll cut the engine, you know, and there's a bunch of different settings you can do with it. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've ran into just a handful of problems where we would have liked to have it. In some instances where either people went to Mexico and got the car taken by Border Patrol, or they dropped the car somewhere we had no idea where it was. And then there's the times where we have had it, and it's been so helpful, where there's a guy that just like did not want to return it, would not give us the car back, and we knew where it was because we had the Bouncy. There was like maybe another time like that. I mean, there's just been instances where we've really needed it, and thank God we've had it. And then when we didn't have it, we wish we had it, because we've had a 21 Jeep stolen from us, and we had to get it back, and we did not. That's the one car at the time we didn't have a tracker on, and it took us, it was like 2 or 3 weeks to get it back. I mean,
Yeah.
it was crazy. So, I mean, just make sure you're doing your research, you're buying the cars right. Make sure you have a tracker. Make sure you're keeping track of maintenance. Make sure you're keeping track of customer relations. And if you do all that and you're on top of everything, I think it's pretty easy to grow a successful business.
Oh, very easy. Well, you're gonna have to put the work in, but it can be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next video. We'll see you later.
Thanks for supporting. See ya.